Hello there, and welcome to Daily Drift Off. Tonight, we're going on a journey together, not through the waking world, but through the hidden landscapes of your sleeping mind. Every night, as twilight settles and you drift towards sleep, something extraordinary happens. Your brain transforms into a storyteller, a painter, a trickster, and a guardian, all at once. For about 2 hours each night, whether you remember or not, it weaves tales so strange that they would make Salvador Dalí smile. Stories where you soar above melting cities, chase shadows through rooms that shift like water, or find yourself speaking with loved ones who exist now only in memory. But here's what's truly remarkable. These aren't just random fragments of neural static. They're not meaningless chaos born from a resting brain. No, your dreams are something far more beautiful and purposeful than that. They're the mind's way of sorting through the day's emotions, rehearsing life's possibilities, and sometimes, just sometimes, whispering truths we're not quite ready to hear in daylight. Strange, isn't it, that every culture throughout history, from the Ojibwe vision quests to Tibetan dream yoga, from Freud's Vienna to modern neuroscience labs, has recognized dreams as something profound, something worth understanding. Tonight we'll wander together through the science that shapes these nightly stories. We'll discover why your prefrontal cortex, that careful voice of logic, steps aside during REM sleep, letting your amygdala paint with wild emotional brushstrokes. We'll explore how your hippocampus becomes a memory weaver, stitching fragments of yesterday into surreal tapestries that somehow make perfect sense until you wake. And here's where it gets really interesting. We'll uncover why the strangest dreams might actually be the most important ones. Why that bizarre dream about flying through your childhood kitchen while your high school math teacher explains the meaning of purple might be your brain's most creative work of the day. We'll meet the researchers who first discovered REM sleep by watching children's eyes dart beneath closed lids. We'll hear how Paul McCartney woke with the melody of yesterday fully formed in his mind. We'll learn why nightmares, though unsettling, might be your brain's fierce way of protecting you. But this isn't just about science. Dreams are deeply human, woven into the very fabric of who we are. We'll drift across cultures and centuries, discovering how dreams have guided shamans and inspired artists, how they have shaped religions and sparked scientific breakthroughs. So settle in. Let your breathing deepen. Release whatever tensions the day has brought you. There's nowhere you need to be right now except here, listening to this story of the mind's nightly theater. And as we begin this gentle exploration, ask yourself, what strange dream stayed with you recently? What impossible scene played behind your eyelids that made you wake wondering where you'd really been? Because tonight, we're going to discover that your strangest dreams aren't accidents or glitches. They're invitations, whispered calls from the deepest parts of your mind, asking you to understand the beautiful, bizarre, and utterly essential work that happens every time you close your eyes. Let's begin with the very nature of dreams themselves and why your sleeping brain creates these nocturnal masterpieces that are equal parts mystery and meaning.
Imagine you're gliding through a city where the buildings bend like soft wax under a twilight sky that shimmers between purple and gold. You feel weightless, your heart lifting with an inexplicable joy as you soar above rooftops that ripple like water. Then, without warning, you find yourself in a room you recognize, perhaps your childhood bedroom, but the walls are breathing, expanding and contracting like lungs, and the floor beneath your feet feels like warm sand. A voice calls your name. You turn, and there stands someone you haven't seen in years, their face both familiar and strange, shifting subtly as they speak words that sound like music but carry the weight of forgotten memories. Time moves like honey here, thick, slow, bending around itself. You reach toward them, and suddenly you're falling through layers of cloud that taste like your grandmother's kitchen on Sunday mornings. Then you wake. The dream dissolves like mist, leaving only fragments and the lingering sensation that you've just returned from somewhere incredibly important, though you can't quite remember where. You've felt this too, perhaps, this sense of having lived an entire lifetime in the space between sunset and dawn. But here's the question that has captivated scientists and dreamers alike for centuries. Why does your mind weave such scenes? Why, in the quiet sanctuary of sleep, does your brain become this masterful storyteller, crafting tales that feel both deeply meaningful and utterly impossible? The answer begins with understanding that every night, as you drift into sleep, your brain transforms into something magnificent. It becomes a theater with no director, where scenes shift without warning, and the audience, your sleeping self, accepts every impossibility as perfectly natural. Your mind becomes a painter, blending the colors of memory and emotion onto a canvas that exists only in the darkness behind your eyelids. Picture your brain as a quiet river at night, its surface reflecting fragments of your day, a conversation here, a fleeting worry there, the way sunlight caught in someone's hair. But unlike the orderly stream of waking consciousness, this river swirls and eddies, carrying these fragments into unexpected combinations. The hippocampus, that careful keeper of your memories, doesn't file them away neatly during dreams. Instead, it plays with them, like a child building castles from blocks of different colors and shapes. Research tells us that dreams aren't random neural static or the brain's way of emptying its recycling bin. No, they're far more purposeful than that. They're how your mind processes the emotional weight of your experiences, how it rehearses responses to challenges you might face, how it weaves the threads of who you were yesterday into who you're becoming tomorrow. Think of dreams as your brain's nightly storytelling session, where the rational mind, that careful editor who usually keeps your thoughts organized, steps back and lets imagination run free. The stories feel meaningful because they are meaningful, even when they make no logical sense. They're your psyche's way of speaking to itself in a language of symbols and sensations, of metaphors made manifest.
But not all dreams are created equally. Early in the night, as you first slip into sleep's embrace, your dreams are quiet things, brief sketches rather than full paintings. These are the products of non-REM sleep, where your brain waves slow into gentle, rolling rhythms. The dreams here are fleeting and soft, like watercolor impressions, a face, a feeling, a moment that dissolves almost as soon as it forms. You might dream of simple scenes during these early hours, perhaps sitting at your kitchen table or walking down a familiar street. There's less emotion here, less vivid color. It's as if your dreaming mind is warming up, stretching its creative muscles before the main performance begins. Then comes REM sleep, and everything changes. This is where the real magic happens, where your brain becomes a master cinematographer. Your eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids, hence the name, rapid eye movement, as if you're watching an invisible movie projected on the inside of your eyelids. And in a way, you are.
During REM, your brain waves quicken, dancing in patterns almost identical to those of waking consciousness. But here's the beautiful paradox. While your mind blazes with activity, your body lies still, temporarily paralyzed to prevent you from acting out these vivid dramas. It's as if nature designed the perfect theater where your consciousness can experience the most incredible adventures while your physical self remains safe in sleep's cocoon. These REM dreams are the ones you're most likely to remember, the sprawling, emotional narratives that feel like epic films. They're painted in brilliant colors and filled with intense feelings. You might find yourself weeping with joy or trembling with fear, experiencing emotions so powerful they wake you with their intensity. Strange, isn't it? How the night deepens not just around you, but within you. As the hours pass, something remarkable happens to the architecture of your dreams. Those brief, simple sketches of early sleep begin to transform into vast, complex murals that would make the masters of surrealism weep with envy. By the time dawn approaches, your REM periods stretch longer, sometimes lasting 45 minutes or more. It's during these extended dream sequences that your mind creates its most elaborate productions. The stories become more intricate, more bizarre, more emotionally charged. It's as if your brain, growing bolder with each cycle, decides to push the boundaries of what's possible even further. Think of it like this. Early in the night, your dreaming mind is dipping its brush in gentle pastels, creating soft impressions. But as the night deepens, it reaches for bolder colors, wilder strokes. By morning, it's painting with pure starlight and liquid emotion, creating masterpieces that exist for mere moments before the light of consciousness dissolves them. This isn't accidental. There's a beautiful chemistry at work here, a delicate dance of neurotransmitters that shifts the very nature of your dreams as the night progresses. But we'll explore that mystery soon enough. For now, simply marvel at the fact that your brain knows how to orchestrate this nightly crescendo, building from whispers to symphonies while you sleep. But what creates these impossible worlds where you can fly through walls and converse with long-lost friends? The answer lies in understanding which parts of your brain take the stage during dreams and which ones quietly step into the shadows.
Picture your dreaming brain as an orchestra where some sections play fortissimo while others rest in silence. The amygdala, that ancient almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in your brain, glows with activity during REM sleep. This is your emotional powerhouse, the part of you that recognizes danger, feels joy, experiences the full spectrum of human feeling. In dreams, it's like a master painter working with pure emotion as pigment, splashing fear and wonder and love across the canvas of your sleeping mind. Meanwhile, the hippocampus works like a master librarian who's had a bit too much wine. Usually, it carefully catalogs your memories, filing each experience in its proper place. But in dreams, it becomes playfully chaotic, pulling random volumes from the shelves and combining them in ways that would make your waking mind dizzy. A conversation with your third-grade teacher might blend seamlessly with last week's grocery shopping and that movie you watched 6 months ago. The visual cortex, too, comes alive during dreams, painting landscapes more vivid than any you've seen with your waking eyes. It conjures colors that don't exist in nature, architectures that defy physics,
faces that morph and shift like living portraits. This is why dreams can look more real than reality, because your brain is creating them with the same neural pathways that process actual sight, but without the constraints of what's actually there. But here's where it gets truly interesting. The prefrontal cortex, that careful voice of logic and reason that usually governs your waking thoughts, dims its lights during dreams. This is your brain's executive, the part that usually says, "Wait, that's impossible," or "That doesn't make sense." In dreams, it takes a well-deserved rest, leaving the stage free for impossibility to dance. This is why you can dream of flying and never question how your arms became wings. Why you can speak with your childhood pet and find nothing strange about their wisdom. Why rooms can be simultaneously your bedroom and your grandmother's kitchen and a castle you've never seen. Without the prefrontal cortex's careful supervision, your dreaming mind accepts all paradoxes as perfectly natural. Scientists describe this as your brain creating a collage from memory fragments. But that clinical description hardly captures the poetry of what's actually happening. You're not just randomly sorting through files, you're creating art. Your dreaming mind is a master improviser, taking the scattered notes of your daily experience and weaving them into symphonies of the impossible. And this is why the impossible feels so natural when you're dreaming. Without logic's gentle but firm hand guiding the narrative, your mind is free to explore territories that your waking consciousness would never dare to visit. It's not chaos, it's creativity unbound, imagination set free to play in fields where gravity is optional and time moves in circles. Dreams may be strange, but they are the mind's essential nightly work of weaving meaning from the scattered threads of experience. They're how your psyche processes not just what happened to you today, but who you are becoming through the alchemy of living. Each bizarre scene, each impossible conversation, each moment of dream logic is your brain's way of integrating new experiences with the vast tapestry of who you are. But how did we discover these secrets hidden in sleep's kingdom? How did scientists learn to peek behind the curtain of consciousness and understand the rhythms that shape our nightly journeys? And what do these natural cycles reveal about why we dream such strange and wonderful things in the first place? Let's drift deeper into the story, into the laboratories and late-night observations that unveiled the mysteries of sleep itself. There's so much more to discover about this nightly theater where your mind writes, directs, and stars in the most personal productions ever created. Come, let's explore the science of sleep and dreaming. In a dimly lit laboratory in Chicago, 1953, a young graduate student named Eugene Aserinsky sat watching his 8-year-old son Armand sleep on a narrow army cot. The room was filled with the quiet hum of old machinery, brainwave monitors with their pens scratching rhythmically across rolling paper like mechanical poets writing in an unknown language. Aserinsky had taped electrodes to his son's closed eyelids, expecting to document the peaceful stillness of sleep. But as he watched the data unfold, something extraordinary caught his attention. Periods of rapid, darting eye movements beneath the boy's sealed lids, paired with brain activity that looked almost awake. He leaned forward, studying the tracings with growing wonder. This wasn't the quiet dormancy that scientists had long assumed sleep to be. This was something alive, something active, something that suggested the sleeping mind was far busier than anyone had imagined. Aserinsky checked on Armand, expecting to find him stirring toward wakefulness, but the child was deep in slumber, his breathing steady and peaceful. That night, in that quiet Chicago laboratory, science caught its first glimpse into the secret life of dreams. Aserinsky and his mentor, Nathaniel Kleitman, the father of sleep research, had stumbled upon what we now know as REM sleep. Their discovery, published that same year, shattered centuries of assumption about sleep being a passive state. They had found the biological theater where dreams come alive. This was the beginning of understanding sleep, not as a switch that turns consciousness off, but as a complex symphony with movements and themes, rhythms and variations. Sleep, they discovered, has its own architecture, its own tides that carry us through the night in carefully orchestrated waves. Picture your nightly journey through sleep as an ocean tide, gentle but powerful, pulling you through cycles that last roughly 90 minutes each. 4 to 6 times each night, these waves carry you from the shallows to the depths and back again, each cycle a complete voyage through the landscapes of consciousness. The journey begins in light sleep, what we call stage 1 of non-REM. Here, you're like a swimmer just entering warm water, still aware of the shore but beginning to drift. Your heartbeat slows, your muscles relax, and your mind starts to let go of the day's sharp edges. The thoughts that come here are soft, fleeting, like wisps of cloud dissolving in evening air. Then comes stage 2, where you slip deeper into sleep's embrace. Your brainwaves slow into rolling patterns punctuated by sudden bursts called sleep spindles, brief flares of electrical activity that scientists believe help shield your sleeping mind from the outside world. You're truly asleep now, though still in relatively shallow waters. But the tide pulls you deeper still into stage 3, the profound depths of slow-wave sleep. Here, your brainwaves roll like long, deep ocean swells, slow and powerful. This is where your body does its most essential restoration work, where growth hormone flows, where the immune system strengthens, where the day's physical toll is gently mended. If someone tried to wake you from this stage, you'd surface slowly, disoriented, like a deep-sea diver returning too quickly to the surface. And then, just when you've settled into sleep's deepest embrace, something remarkable happens. The tide turns, carrying you not back to wakefulness, but to that mysterious realm we call REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, where dreams paint their most vivid masterpieces. During REM, your brain becomes a contradiction wrapped in wonder. Neurologically, you're almost awake. Your brainwaves quicken, dancing in patterns nearly identical to waking consciousness. Oxygen and glucose flood your neural networks. Your brain is consuming energy at rates that rival your most focused waking moments, yet your body lies perfectly still, temporarily paralyzed by neurochemicals that prevent you from acting out the vivid dramas playing in your mind.
It's as if nature designed the perfect theater. Your consciousness free to experience the most incredible adventures, while your physical self remains safe in sleep's protective cocoon. Your eyes dart rapidly beneath closed lids, as if watching an invisible movie projected on the darkness, which, in a sense, you are. This is the paradox that captivated those early sleep researchers. A brain that blazes with activity while the body rests in stillness. A mind that creates realities more vivid than the waking world while completely cut off from external input. It's here, in this neurological contradiction, that your strangest and most memorable dreams unfold. But what exactly is happening in your brain during these REM episodes? Imagine your sleeping mind as a city at night, where different districts light up while others dim to darkness. During waking hours, your brain operates like a bustling metropolis, with the prefrontal cortex, your rational planning center, serving as the well-lit downtown district, keeping everything organized and logical. But in REM sleep, the city's lighting completely changes. The prefrontal cortex dims its streetlights, its rational voice growing quiet. Meanwhile, other districts blaze with activity. The amygdala, your brain's emotional heart, glows like a neon-bright entertainment district, intensifying every feeling, every fear, every joy that touches your dream narratives. The hippocampus, usually your mind's careful librarian, becomes more like an eccentric curator, pulling memories from different shelves and combining them in unexpected exhibitions. A conversation with your childhood friend gets displayed next to last Tuesday's grocery list, which somehow connects to that movie you watched 3 years ago. The connections make perfect dream sense, even though they would bewilder your waking mind. And the visual cortex, this becomes the most brilliant artist's studio, painting landscapes and faces and impossible architectures with strokes of pure neural electricity. It creates sunsets you've never seen, cities that exist nowhere on Earth, faces that morph and shift like living portraits. Without input from your actual eyes, it's free to conjure visions limited only by the boundaries of imagination itself. Surprising, isn't it, that your brain can create experiences more vivid than reality, using nothing but its own internal fireworks? The colors in dreams can seem more saturated than any waking hue, the emotions more intense than any you felt while awake. This is because your dreaming brain is creating these experiences with the same neural pathways that process real sensations, but without the constraints of what's actually there. But dreams aren't just random neural light shows. They serve purposes that scientists are only beginning to understand. Purposes that make every strange scene and impossible conversation part of your brain's essential nighttime work. One of the most beautiful functions of REM sleep is memory consolidation, the process by which your brain sorts through the day's experiences and decides which ones deserve permanent residence in your mind's vast library. During dreams, your hippocampus replays the day's events, but not in the straightforward, chronological way you experienced them.
Instead, it weaves them together with older memories, finding patterns and connections that your conscious mind might never have noticed.
It's as if your dreams are quiet therapy sessions where your brain processes not just what happened to you, but what it all means. That difficult conversation with your boss gets woven together with memories of similar challenges you faced, creating a kind of emotional rehearsal that helps you better handle such situations in the future. The joy you felt watching a sunset gets connected to other moments of beauty in your life, strengthening neural pathways associated with appreciation and wonder. Research shows that people who dream about learning new skills often perform better at those skills the next day. It's as if your sleeping brain continues practicing, continues integrating new knowledge into the existing tapestry of everything you know. Students who dream about studying material they learned during the day show improved recall and understanding. Musicians who dream of playing often wake with enhanced technical abilities. But perhaps even more importantly, REM sleep serves as a kind of emotional regulation system, helping your psyche process and integrate the feelings that color your waking experience. The emotional intensity of dreams, the way you can feel overwhelming joy or heart-pounding fear in dream scenarios, isn't accidental. Your brain is essentially running emotional simulations, testing different responses to challenging situations, finding ways to balance your psychological equilibrium. Think of it as your mind's way of conducting overnight therapy sessions. That anxiety you felt during the day might get processed through a dream where you're lost in a maze, but eventually find your way out. The anger you couldn't fully express gets channeled into a dream scenario where you're powerful enough to face any challenge. Dreams give your emotions a safe space to play out their dramas, often leaving you with a sense of resolution you couldn't find while awake. But why do these essential processes manifest in such bizarre ways? Why doesn't your brain simply sort memories and process emotions in neat logical sequences? Why the flying? Why the talking animals? Why the rooms that transform into gardens that become oceans? The answer lies in understanding what happens when the brain's usual executive, that careful prefrontal cortex, steps away from its supervisory role. Without logic's gentle but firm guidance, your dreaming mind is free to make associations that would never occur to your waking consciousness. The result is a kind of creative chaos where meaningful connections get expressed through surreal imagery. Your brain might represent feelings of freedom through dreams of flying, not because it's trying to be symbolic, but because the neural networks associated with liberation and movement are firing together without logical constraints telling them that human flight is impossible. The sensation of falling in dreams might reflect feelings of losing control in waking life, but they're processed through the same neural pathways that would respond to actual gravitational threats. It's like watching a master improviser perform, someone who can take completely unrelated suggestions from an audience and weave them into a coherent, entertaining story. Your dreaming brain takes the random suggestions of memory, emotion, and bodily sensation, then improvises narratives that somehow make perfect sense within the logic of the dream, even if they would seem completely absurd to your waking mind. This is why the stage of dreams feels so alive, so real, so meaningful, even when the plot makes no logical sense. Your brain isn't trying to create chaos, it's trying to create meaning, but without the usual rules that govern how meaning gets constructed.
The result is a kind of pure creativity, unfiltered by practical concerns about what's possible or impossible.
Scientists have proposed several theories to explain why we dream. And like pieces of a vast puzzle, each one captures part of the truth. The activation synthesis hypothesis suggests that dreams are your brain's attempt to make sense of random neural firing that occurs during REM sleep. According to this view, the brainstem generates bursts of electrical activity, and your cortex weaves these signals into the best stories it can manage. Like a novelist working with a handful of random words and trying to craft them into a coherent narrative. There's something poetic about this idea, that dreams are born from your brain's fundamental need to create meaning, to find patterns and stories, even in randomness. It would explain why dreams often feel meaningful even when they're structurally chaotic, why they seem to carry emotional weight even when their plots make no logical sense. The threat simulation theory takes a different approach, suggesting that dreams evolved as a kind of overnight training program for dealing with dangers. Researchers who support this theory point out that many dreams involve threatening scenarios, being chased, falling, facing some kind of danger, and propose that these nocturnal rehearsals helped our ancestors survive in a world full of predators and environmental hazards. From this perspective, the anxiety dreams that wake you with your heart racing aren't just random neural misfires, they're your brain's way of practicing responses to potential threats. The dream where you're being chased through a dark forest might be helping you rehearse escape strategies. The falling dream might be strengthening your reflexes for situations where balance and quick reactions could save your life. Then there's the emotional regulation theory, which sees dreams as your psyche's way of maintaining emotional balance. This view suggests that dreams help you process intense feelings, work through psychological conflicts, and integrate emotionally charged experiences into your overall sense of self. The strange, symbolic nature of dreams becomes a kind of emotional code, a way for your unconscious mind to work through feelings that might be too overwhelming to process directly. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of dream research is that no single theory explains everything. Like constellations in the night sky, each theory illuminates part of the vast mystery of why we dream. Together, they suggest that dreams serve multiple purposes simultaneously. They help consolidate memories, process emotions, rehearse responses to challenges, and create meaning from the chaos of daily experience. What seems certain is that dreams are not the random byproducts of a resting brain, but rather the evidence of a mind that never truly sleeps. Even in the depths of night, your consciousness continues its essential work of weaving experience into understanding, of transforming the raw materials of living into the stories that make you who you are. Dreams are your mind's rehearsal space, its therapy session, its creative workshop, its emotional laboratory. They're the place where your psyche experiments with possibilities, where it tries out different versions of yourself, where it processes the complex business of being human in a world that's simultaneously beautiful and challenging, predictable and surprising, comforting and frightening.
But this still leaves us with perhaps the most intriguing question of all. Why do these essential psychological processes manifest in such wonderfully weird ways? Why do we step into melting rooms as if it's perfectly normal? Why do we fly through our dreams without ever questioning how we developed wings? Why does the impossible feel so natural when we're dreaming? Let's wander deeper into that mystery, into the beautiful strangeness that makes dreams one of the most fascinating aspects of human experience. There's something magical waiting to be discovered about why our sleeping minds create worlds where anything is possible, and why we accept those worlds so completely while we're there.
Picture yourself floating above a city where buildings bend like soft wax beneath a twilight sky. You drift weightless, your heart swelling with joy as you soar through the amber air, only to find yourself suddenly standing in a room where the walls shift like water, and a face from years past speaks to you in words made of starlight and memory. This is the strange beauty of a dream. Time bends, logic melts, and the impossible feels as real as your heartbeat. Why does the mind paint such surreal scenes night after night? What makes a simple shadow feel terrifying, or a stranger's smile overflow with warmth you can barely contain? Let's drift deeper into this mystery, where the ordinary rules of the world dissolve and your brain becomes an artist working with no canvas but imagination itself. In the quiet theater of sleep, your mind finds itself untethered from the world's steady anchors. No rustling leaves reach your ears, no morning light touches your skin, no familiar scents drift by. Your brain, cut off from these sensory threads that usually weave reality together, must paint its own world entirely from within. Picture your dreaming mind as a painter working in a windowless room with only memory's palette to choose from. The visual cortex conjures landscapes that shimmer and dissolve, sometimes a childhood street, sometimes an ocean that glows. The auditory cortex hums with imagined voices, distant music, or the echo of conversations half forgotten. Without the world's steady whispers to guide it, your brain is free to bend every rule. A door might open to reveal not a hallway, but a forest. A friend's familiar face might shift into a stranger's, then back again. These aren't glitches, they're your mind painting on a canvas made purely of imagination, where anything becomes possible because nothing external says it can't be.
And time? In dreams, clocks don't tick. They ripple like water disturbed by a stone. A dream lasting mere minutes can feel like you've lived entire lifetimes, racing through years of adventure, sorrow, or joy. Or perhaps you've experienced the opposite, hours of dream narrative collapsing into a single crystalline moment when you wake. Studies reveal that our brain's timekeeping regions, usually so precise in waking life, loosen their grip during REM sleep, letting moments stretch and compress like light bending through a prism. One moment you're a child in your grandmother's kitchen, then suddenly you're decades older, standing in a place that exists nowhere but in the dream's flowing timeline. The conversation you're having might loop endlessly or leap across years in a single breath. This isn't confusion. It's your brain exploring time as a river rather than a road, meandering and bending in ways that would be impossible in the waking world.
But where do these strange scenes truly come from? Deep within your mind, the hippocampus works like a gentle librarian in sleep, pulling fragments from memory's vast shelves. A coworker's laugh from Tuesday, the worry that flickered through you Thursday evening, the scent of rain you noticed yesterday but didn't quite hold on to. Your dreaming brain shuffles these pieces like a child playing with puzzle fragments, but without looking at the picture on the box. The anxiety from a work meeting might blend with your childhood bedroom. A recent conversation might unfold in a castle that never existed, spoken by someone who passed away years ago.
This isn't random chaos. It's your mind's way of sorting and connecting, finding threads between experiences that logic might never link. The hippocampus weaves, the visual cortex paints, and suddenly you're in a grocery store that's also somehow your high school, talking to a teacher who looks exactly like your current neighbor. The brain doesn't ask if these connections make sense. It simply explores what might be possible when the usual rules are set aside. And why do emotions burn so bright in dreams? Why can a simple shadow spark terror that makes your dream heart pound? Or why can a smile from someone you barely know overflow you with warmth that feels more real than waking happiness? The answer lies in the amygdala, your brain's emotional core, which glows with activity during REM sleep like a small star burning bright. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which normally acts as emotion's gentle moderator in waking life, rests quietly. Without its tempering influence, feelings flow unchecked through your dreamscape. That's why a creaking door in a dream house can flood you with terror, while in waking life it might barely register. Or why seeing a loved one's face in a dream can bring tears that carry into waking. Your emotional responses, freed from logic's careful boundaries, paint every dream moment with intensity that can feel overwhelming, beautiful, or both at once. Perhaps you felt the rush of falling, that sudden plummet through space that jolts you awake with a racing heart. Or maybe you've been chased through shifting corridors by something you never quite see, your legs heavy as if moving through water, while urgency screams through every nerve. These aren't your dreams alone. They're humanity's shared whispers. The dream of falling visits about 70% of us, often reflecting those moments when we feel control slipping away in waking life. Being chased speaks to our ancient instincts, perhaps rehearsing what our ancestors needed to survive. Losing teeth, flying without wings, finding ourselves naked in public places, these themes echo across cultures and centuries, as if we're all drawing from the same deep well of human experience. One dreamer described falling from a cliff only to land softly in her childhood classroom, fear transforming into comfort. Another chased a fading melody through a dream forest, waking with a song still humming in their heart. These recurring themes aren't accidents. They're your brain's way of processing the fears, hopes, and instincts that make us human.
But here's the gentle truth hidden in all this strangeness. Your bizarre dreams aren't signs of a chaotic mind. They're windows into how beautifully your brain works when freed from reality's constraints. Think of dream oddities as proof of your mind's incredible creativity, its ability to take the ordinary fragments of daily life and weave them into stories that could never exist anywhere else. When you dream of flying, your brain is exploring freedom. When rooms shift and change, it's experimenting with possibility. When time bends and people transform, your mind is simply playing in the vast space between what is and what could be. Scientists describe this as your brain's sandbox, a safe space where it can test ideas, process emotions, and make connections without consequence. The strangeness isn't a flaw, it's a feature, revealing the endless creativity that lives within you, waiting to unfold each night. So as you drift deeper into this understanding, let the oddities of your dreams feel less mysterious and more like gifts, evidence of a mind that refuses to be bound by the everyday world's limitations. But these strange dreams do more than reveal the brain's creative depths. They've also sparked something remarkable throughout human history, inspiring art, music, literature, and discoveries that changed our world. Some of civilization's most beautiful creations were born from the very oddities we've been exploring. Let's wander into that realm next, where dream strangeness becomes the birthplace of wonder.
Picture yourself waking in the soft darkness before dawn, a dream still glowing in your mind like embers from a dying fire. Your hand reaches instinctively for paper, for anything to capture the fragments before they dissolve. A melody that seemed to float from nowhere, an image so vivid it felt more real than the room around you. Words that carried weight you couldn't quite understand, but knew you needed to remember. What treasures might be hidden in these fleeting fragments? What if the very strangeness we've been exploring, the impossible scenes, the twisted logic, the emotions that burn so bright, what if these oddities are not just curiosities of the sleeping mind, but wellsprings of something profound? Let's drift into a realm where dream strangeness becomes the birthplace of wonder, where the mind's midnight wanderings have gifted the world with art, music, and stories that echo through time. Dreams are wells, deep and mysterious, where the mind dips to find ideas beyond waking logic's reach. While our conscious selves follow familiar paths of thought, our dreaming minds venture into territories that daylight reason would never dare explore. It's in this untamed landscape that creativity often finds its most fertile soil. Scientists studying the sleeping brain have discovered something remarkable. During REM sleep, the regions responsible for logical thinking quiet down, while areas linked to emotion and visual processing come alive. It's as if the mind sheds its everyday constraints and begins to play, mixing memories and imagination in ways that would seem impossible when awake. This isn't chaos, it's a different kind of order, one that artists throughout history have learned to trust and treasure. They've discovered that the same strangeness that makes dreams feel bewildering also makes them rich with possibility. In 1920s Paris, a young Spanish painter named Salvador Dalí discovered something extraordinary about the twilight moments between waking and sleep. He would sit in his chair, holding a heavy key poised above a metal plate, letting his mind drift toward slumber. The
The moment sleep began to claim him, the key would slip from his fingers, crash onto the plate, and startle him awake, but not before he caught glimpses of the surreal theater playing in his mind. For Dalí, dreams weren't nonsense. They were portals to what he called a super reality, where the impossible became beautifully possible. From these brief journeys into sleep's strange country came some of the most iconic images in art. Clocks that melted like warm cheese over barren landscapes, tigers leaping from impossible spaces, elephants walking on legs thin as spider silk. His painting, The Persistence of Memory, captures time itself as dream logic sees it, not as the steady tick of seconds, but as something fluid, bendable, alive. The melting clocks didn't come from conscious thought, but from that liminal space where the mind paints without asking permission from reason. Strange, isn't it, how the very confusion of dream time could birth such a perfect expression of how time truly feels in our deepest experiences, sometimes racing, sometimes crawling, always more mysterious than any clock could measure. Now, drift with me to a quiet morning in 1965 in a London flat where a young man named Paul McCartney stirred from sleep with something extraordinary echoing in his mind. A melody, complete and beautiful, had arrived in his dreams, not in fragments or half-formed phrases, but whole, as if some invisible composer had spent the night working while he rested. He stumbled to the piano by his bedside, still half wrapped in sleep's gentle confusion, and played what he remembered. The melody was so clear, so perfectly formed, that he was certain it must belong to someone else. Surely he had merely remembered a song he had heard before and forgotten. But as days passed and he played it for friends and musicians, searching for its true owner, he slowly realized the truth. His sleeping mind had composed what would become Yesterday, one of the most beloved songs in history. It was as if his dreams had reached into some universal well of melody and drawn up this gift, presenting it to his waking self like a flower picked from night's garden. How often have you felt a dream linger in your mind like a spark, an image, a feeling, perhaps even a melody humming just beneath consciousness? McCartney's experience whispers of something we all carry, the possibility that our dreams might be composing symphonies, painting pictures, or writing stories that we've simply never learned to catch upon waking.
Let's drift now to a stormy summer night in 1816 by the shores of Lake Geneva, where an 18-year-old woman named Mary Shelley found herself caught between waking and sleep. The summer had been unusually cold and dark. Volcanic ash from a distant eruption had dimmed the sun, and she and her companions had been telling ghost stories to pass the long, gloomy evenings. But that night, as she lay in the space between consciousness and dreams, a vision came to her, vivid and terrible, and somehow completely real. She saw a scientist, pale with the horror of his work, kneeling beside something he had constructed from pieces of the dead. She watched as this creation stirred to life and felt the creator's revulsion at what he had wrought. The vision was so clear, so complete, that when she woke, she knew she had been given more than just a nightmare. She had been handed a story. From that single dream vision came Frankenstein, a novel that would help birth an entire genre and still haunts our imagination more than 2 centuries later. A fleeting nightmare became a timeless exploration of creation, responsibility, and what it means to be human. The strangeness of the dream,
a man made of assembled parts, brought to life through mysterious arts, didn't diminish the story's power. Instead, that impossible strangeness became the very heart of its enduring truth. These stories aren't unusual accidents. They're glimpses into something that happens more often than we might realize. The same neural networks that create the bizarre connections in our dreams are also the ones that foster creativity. When the logical mind steps aside, when the usual rules are suspended, the brain begins to make associations it would never make in daylight. Dmitri Mendeleev saw the structure of the periodic table complete in a dream. Robert Louis Stevenson dreamed the plot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Kekle discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake seizing its own tail. Niels Bohr's model of the atom came from a dream of sitting on the sun with planets whirling around him. What treasures might your own dreams be offering? Think for a moment. Has a dream ever left you with an image that wouldn't fade? A story that seemed to want telling? A solution to a problem that had been troubling you? Perhaps you've dismissed these as mere oddities of sleep. But what if there was something more? Dreams speak in the language of symbol and metaphor, in images that bypass logic and reach directly for understanding. They show us our fears transformed into monsters we can face, our hopes dressed as flight or endless roads stretching toward horizons that shimmer with possibility. When we create, whether we're painting, writing, composing, or simply daydreaming, we're drawing from the same wells that feed our dreams. The strangeness that makes dreams feel bewildering is the same force that allows art to show us familiar things in startling new ways. Your dreams are not just random neural firing or meaningless entertainment for a resting brain. They are your mind's way of exploring possibilities, of asking what if in ways that consciousness, with all its careful boundaries, would never dare to attempt. So, as you prepare for tonight's journey into sleep, consider carrying with you a gentle invitation to notice. Keep paper by your bedside, not because you must capture every dream, but because the act of readiness itself honors the creative potential that lives in those dark hours. What might your dreams be whispering to you? What stories are being written in the theater of your sleeping mind? What melodies are being hummed by unconscious composers? What images painted by artists who work only in darkness? Dreams are more than the oddities we've explored. They're inspiration flowing from the same strangeness that once confused us. They're proof that creativity and confusion often spring from the same source, the mind's willingness to venture beyond the boundaries of what it thinks it knows. But beyond art and creativity lies something even deeper, questions that have puzzled humans for centuries. What do our dreams reveal about who we truly are? What secrets do they carry about our fears, our longings, the hidden landscapes of the heart?
That's where psychology enters our story, with theories and insights that transform dreams from mysterious entertainments into windows of understanding.
For as long as we've dreamed, we've wondered about the stories that unfold behind our closed eyes. Are they secrets whispered by the heart?
messages from some deeper part of ourselves, or perhaps just flickers of the mind, meaningless sparks thrown off by a brain sorting through the day's debris. Picture yourself as part of humanity's long conversation with mystery, a conversation that has echoed through centuries, where brilliant minds have offered their own keys to unlock the theater of dreams. Each thinker, each theory, like a lantern held up to illuminate different corners of the same vast, shadowed room. What if the strangeness we've been exploring, the impossible flights, the shifting faces, the emotions that burn so bright, what if these oddities carry meaning deeper than their surface confusion? Let's wander through the garden of human understanding, where psychology has planted different seeds of insight about what dreams might truly be. In the quiet of a Vienna study at the turn of the 20th century, a man named Sigmund Freud sat listening to the dreams of his patients, hearing in their strange narratives something more than random neural noise. For Freud, dreams were theaters where the unconscious mind staged its secret dramas, disguising forbidden wishes and buried fears in symbolic costume. Picture the mind as having two voices: the conscious self that follows society's rules and speaks in daylight language, and a deeper self that knows desires too dangerous or shameful to voice directly. Dreams, Freud believed, were where this hidden self could finally speak, but only in code. A staircase ascending might mask ambition too bold to admit. A locked door could represent a memory too painful to open. Water might symbolize birth or death, or the flow of life itself. Every dream image was a puzzle piece in a larger picture of who you truly were beneath the careful mask of waking consciousness. For Freud, dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, a secret pathway leading to truths the waking mind preferred to keep buried. He saw each strange dream sequence as a careful encryption, where the mind disguised its real messages so they could slip past the watchful guard of reason. Curious, isn't it, how what seems like chaos might actually be the most careful kind of order, a code written by one part of yourself for another to decode. But not everyone saw dreams through Freud's lens of hidden desires. Carl Jung, once Freud's student and later his philosophical rival, looked at the same mysterious theater and saw something entirely different unfolding on its stage. Where Freud saw personal secrets, Jung saw universal stories. He believed dreams drew not just from your individual unconscious, but from the collective unconscious, a vast shared reservoir of human experience that flows beneath all our separate minds like an underground river. In Jung's vision, dreams were populated by archetypes: the wise old figure who offers guidance, the shadow self that embodies everything you fear about yourself, the hero who must journey through darkness to find light. These weren't just personal symbols, but universal patterns that appear in myths, stories, and dreams across all cultures and centuries. Have you ever dreamed of a wise stranger who seemed to know exactly what you needed to hear? Or perhaps a shadowy figure you couldn't quite see but somehow feared? Jung would say these weren't random creations of your sleeping brain, but ancient guides emerging from the collective story of humanity, offering their timeless wisdom to help you navigate your own journey toward wholeness. For Jung, Dreams weren't puzzles to be solved, but rivers flowing into a shared ocean of meaning, connecting your individual story to the larger tale of what it means to be human. As the 20th century deepened and neuroscience began to peer more closely into the sleeping brain, new voices joined the conversation with different insights altogether. Modern psychology stepped away from the symbolic interpretations of Freud and Jung, asking instead, what if dreams aren't mysterious codes, but simply the mind at work? Research revealed that dreaming brains show remarkable activity, not the passive rest early scientists had imagined, but a bustling workshop where memories are sorted, emotions are processed, and skills are practiced. Dreams in this view became less like riddles and more like rehearsal spaces where the mind prepares for waking challenges. Studies showed that people who dreamed about tasks they were learning, navigating a maze, playing a piece of music, performed better when they woke up. The sleeping brain seemed to be running simulations, testing different approaches and strengthening neural pathways while consciousness rested. Dreams about emotional experiences appeared to serve a different purpose, softening the sharp edges of difficult memories, helping the mind process grief, fear, or trauma in a safer space where consequences couldn't follow you into the waking world. A fight with a friend might be replayed in dream form, but with different outcomes, different resolutions, helping you prepare emotionally for healing or reconciliation. Dreams in this light weren't riddles to solve, but tools the mind used to grow, learn, and recover, the brain's way of taking care of itself while you slept.
Even nightmares, those unwelcome visitors that jolt us from sleep with racing hearts and lingering fear, began to reveal their own strange purpose under psychology's gentle examination. Rather than being mere tormentors or signs of disturbance, nightmares seem to serve as the mind's fierce protectors. The threat simulation theory suggests that nightmares are ancient rehearsals, your brain practicing responses to danger in a safe space. When you dream of being chased through dark corridors, or falling from great heights, or facing some unnamed terror, your mind might be strengthening the very instincts that could help you survive real threats. Consider how often nightmare themes echo across humanity, being pursued, falling, losing control, facing violence or death. These aren't random fears, but fundamental human vulnerabilities, and dreams that rehearse responses to them might once have meant the difference between survival and destruction for our ancestors. Even trauma-related nightmares, painful as they are, might serve as the mind's attempt to process overwhelming experiences, playing them out repeatedly until they lose some of their power to harm. The brain seems to understand something about healing that consciousness doesn't always grasp, that sometimes we must face our fears again and again, even in sleep, until they become manageable. Even fear, it seems, has its role in the dream world's strange theater. And then there are those remarkable moments when the dreamer suddenly realizes they're dreaming, like awakening within the dream itself. Lucid dreaming offers yet another window into the mind's nocturnal mysteries, where you become both actor and playwright in the theater of sleep. Imagine painting your own sunset inside the dream, or choosing to fly rather than fall, or turning to face the monster that's been chasing you and asking what it wants to tell you. Lucid dreamers report experiences of profound creativity, emotional healing, and even spiritual insight, as if gaining awareness within the dream unlocks new possibilities for understanding and growth. Some researchers see lucid dreaming as the ultimate expression of consciousness,
the mind's ability to observe itself even in sleep's deepest mysteries. Others view it as a practical tool for overcoming nightmares, practicing skills, or exploring creativity without the constraints of physical reality. In lucid dreams, the strangeness of the dream world doesn't disappear. It simply becomes a landscape you can consciously explore, like having a conversation with your unconscious while it paints its surreal masterpieces around you. Perhaps the most intriguing insight from psychology's long study of dreams is this: they might all be true in their own way. Freud's symbols, Jung's archetypes, modern science's rehearsals and processing, perhaps dreams are vast enough to contain all these functions and more. Dreams might indeed be messages from the unconscious mind and also memory consolidation systems. They could be both personal symbols and universal archetypes, both random neural activity and meaningful narrative. The mind, after all, is large enough to contain contradictions, complex enough to serve multiple purposes simultaneously. What psychology has given us isn't a single answer to the riddle of dreams, but a collection of lenses through which to view their mystery. Each perspective reveals different aspects of the same phenomenon, like turning a crystal in light to see its many facets gleam. Dreams, whether we understand them as Freud's coded wishes, Jung's archetypal guidance, or modern science's nocturnal workshops, remain mirrors of the mind, reflecting back to us aspects of ourselves we might never encounter in the harsh light of day. But what happens when we step beyond psychology altogether? When we ask not just what dreams might mean to the individual mind, but how whole cultures, across centuries and continents, have understood these nightly visitors? For while scientists and psychologists have offered their theories, humanity's relationship with dreams stretches far deeper than any single discipline can encompass. Across the world, in traditions both ancient and enduring, dreams have been seen as sacred journeys, divine messages, and pathways to wisdom that transcend the boundaries of any one theory or belief. Let's drift there next to explore how dreams have woven themselves into the spiritual and cultural fabric of human experience across time.
What if your dream wasn't just personal, but a message for your whole community? Let's drift across the world, where dreams have never been private whispers, but sacred rivers connecting us to something larger. For thousands of years, across every continent, beneath every starlit sky, humans have looked at their strange dreams and seen not chaos, but meaning. In the forests of North America, in the monasteries of Tibet, in the meeting houses of New Zealand, dreams are bridges. Bridges to ancestors who still speak, to spirits who still guide, to truths that daylight cannot reveal. Strange, isn't it, that whether you sleep in a city or a village, whether you follow ancient ways or modern paths, your dreams feel like they carry weight, like they're trying to tell you something. Picture a young seeker, alone in the vast forests of the Great Lakes region. The Ojibwe call it mikwinim, a vision quest. For days they fast in solitude, waiting for a dream to find them. And then it comes, an eagle soaring through their sleep, its wings catching starlight. Or perhaps a bear, powerful and protective, speaking without words. These aren't just dreams, they're bawajigan, sacred visions that will shape not only their path, but their people's destiny. When they return to their community, elders gather. The dream is shared, like a gift passed from hand to hand. Its meaning unfolds slowly, carefully, because in Ojibwe tradition,
Dreams don't belong to just one person. They belong to the whole tribe. And at night, as children sleep, dream catchers sway gently above them, woven webs that catch the harmful dreams, letting only the sacred ones slip through, like moonlight through leaves. For many indigenous peoples, dreams are not illusions. They are guidance from a world that's always present, always listening, always ready to speak to those who know how to hear. Now, let's drift eastward to the quiet monasteries of Tibet, where snow peaks touch the heavens. Here, a monk sits in meditation, but his practice doesn't end when he closes his eyes. In Tibetan dream yoga, sleep itself becomes a path to enlightenment. As he dreams of walking through a lotus garden, he suddenly realizes, "I am dreaming." But instead of waking, he stays, aware within the dream. Each petal, each step, becomes a lesson in the nature of reality itself. Because if this dream feels real, if its beauty moves his heart, then what of waking life? Is that too a kind of dream? This question echoes through time, back to ancient China, where the philosopher Zhuangzi once dreamt he was a butterfly. He flew through endless gardens, joyful and free, until he woke as a man. But then he wondered, am I Zhuangzi who dreamt of being a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly now dreaming of being Zhuangzi? Is life the dream, or the dream the life? In the East, dreams are not escapes from reality, they're training grounds for understanding what reality truly is. Now, let's journey to the heart of Ghana, where Ashanti elders gather as morning light filters through palm leaves. A young woman has dreamed of a great storm approaching from the west. The dream is shared with the community, not dismissed, not forgotten, but read like a sacred text, because among the Ashanti, dreams are letters from the ancestors, messages from those who've crossed the river of time but still watch over their people. The elders decide the harvest should be moved up, the festival postponed, because a dream warned them, and dreams have saved their community before. Far to the south, among the Zulu people, a traditional healer dreams of a lion walking through her village. She knows this is no ordinary dream. The lion speaks of courage needed in the coming days, of strength the community must find. Cross-cultural bridge. And across the ocean, in the meeting houses of New Zealand, Maori elders gather in their Watanui. A fisherman has dreamed of his grandfather, pointing toward dangerous waters. The dream ripples through the iwi, the tribe, shaping decisions that will keep everyone safe. He momoea, he korero no te wahi naro. A dream is a message from the hidden place, building to universal truth. Different lands, different languages, but the same wonder, the same sense that dreams are more than the mind talking to itself. They're conversations between the dreamer and something larger, something that knows what we need to hear. And yet, how many of us have felt this, waking with a dream that lingered, not because it was strange, but because it felt important, like a message we almost understood, like a door that almost opened. Perhaps this is what unites us, not the content of our dreams, but the feeling they carry, that sense of, this means something, this matters. From the Ojibwe forests to the Tibetan peaks, from African villages to island meeting houses, Dreams are humanity's shared river, flowing through every culture, carrying the same whispered hope that we are not alone, that there is guidance, that there is meaning. Dreams are bridges, connecting us to ancestors we've never met, to wisdom we didn't know we carried, to a part of ourselves that speaks in symbols and starlight. But now, in our modern age, a new question emerges. If ancient traditions saw dreams as messages from beyond, what might happen if science could peer directly into the dream world itself? What if we could see the images that flicker behind sleeping eyes, record the stories that play in the theater of the mind, share the visions that visit us in the deep hours of night? What if one day we could step inside a dream, not just our own, but someone else's? Picture this. The dreams that vanish like morning mist could one day be captured, replayed like old films, even shared like stories told by firelight. We stand at the edge of a new frontier, where the secret cinema of the mind meets the patient curiosity of science, where ancient wonder collides with modern technology, asking questions that would have seemed like magic just decades ago. The future of dream science is unfolding quietly in laboratories around the world. Scientists with gentle hands and endless patience shining the first faint lights into a cave that has been dark since the beginning of time. In a quiet lab in Japan, a dreamer sleeps while machines hum softly around them. Brain scanners trace the flow of blood, the dance of electricity, the whispers of magnetic fields, mapping the geography of dreams as they unfold. Like archaeologists brushing dust from ancient artifacts, researchers are beginning to reconstruct the first blurry images from the dreaming mind. A house, perhaps, or a face floating in shadow. Rough sketches, imperfect, but unmistakably born from someone's sleeping thoughts. Strange, isn't it? A computer looking at brainwaves and saying, "I see something that looks like a tree." The first photographs of dreams, grainy and uncertain, like tracing shadows on a cave wall, but shadows that reveal the mind's secret art. The technology is still young, still learning to read the language the brain writes in sleep. But every blurry image is a step deeper into the mystery. Every pattern recognized is a word in the dictionary of dreams. Now imagine an assistant that never sleeps, never forgets, gently reading through thousands of dream journals, noticing patterns that slip past tired human eyes. Artificial intelligence is learning to listen to dreams. Trained on the stories people tell when they wake, it begins to recognize the threads that weave through our sleeping minds. Fear that appears as falling, joy that takes the shape of flight, longing that builds impossible rooms in houses that no longer exist. Imagine keeping a dream journal and having this quiet assistant whisper back to you, "You've dreamed of water 7 times this month. You've flown in 12 different ways. The color blue appears when you dream of your childhood." Would you want to know these patterns? To see the map of your own sleeping mind, drawn in gentle lines across the months and years? AI doesn't interpret dreams. It simply holds up a mirror, showing us what we might have missed in the rushing current of our nights. But perhaps the most tender possibility lies in healing. Imagine someone haunted by nightmares, trapped in the same fearful dream night after night. But what if, with gentle guidance, that dream could be rewritten? The monster transformed into a guardian, the endless fall cushioned by soft clouds, the locked door finally opening to reveal not darkness but light. Scientists are exploring ways to whisper new possibilities into the dreaming mind, using sound, using light, using the brain's own capacity for change. They're learning to tend dreams like gardeners, encouraging growth toward peace instead of panic. In the future, our dreams may become partners in healing, processing grief, soothing trauma, rehearsing courage, teaching the heart new songs to sing in sleep. Not controlling dreams, but nurturing them, helping them become what they want to become, stories that heal instead of harm, visions that comfort instead of frighten. But these possibilities raise questions as soft and deep as moonlight on water. If we could record a dream, would we want to watch it again? Would we fast forward through the strange parts or linger in the impossible beauty? If we could share a dream with someone we love, would it still be ours? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine, what would it feel like to walk inside another person's dream, to see through their sleeping eyes, to feel their dream emotions as your own? Would it bring us closer together, or would we discover that even in dreams we remain beautifully, mysteriously alone? Dreams have always been the last private space, the one theater where only we hold the ticket. If that changes, if dreams become shareable, recordable, readable, do we lose something sacred, or do we gain something profound?
Perhaps the future will teach us that dreams, like all the most important things, are meant to be both treasured in solitude and occasionally shared with those brave enough to walk in our sleeping footsteps. Imagine waking not to an alarm, but to your own voice, gently describing the dream you just had, recorded by a device that listened all night to your sleeping brain. Or picture two minds connected by technology so subtle it feels like magic, sharing a dreamscape built from both their memories, both their hopes, a place that belongs to neither and both. These futures may come, or they may remain in the realm of imagination, but the questions they raise are already with us. Questions about privacy and connection, about the self and the shared, about what it means to dream in a world where dreams might one day be visible to others. For now, the future of dream science remains what it has always been, a lantern glowing at the edge of mystery, casting more questions than answers into the beautiful darkness of the unknown. The scientists in their quiet labs are like the first map makers, charting territories that have never been explored. Each brain scan is a gentle step into the unknown. Each AI pattern is a whispered clue. Each therapeutic breakthrough
is a hand extended to those who struggle in sleep. But as we stand here, looking toward these shimmering possibilities, perhaps it's time to turn our attention back to the dreams that visit us now, tonight, in the familiar darkness of our own sleeping minds. The future of dream science is just beginning, a quiet lantern glowing at the edge of mystery. But before we end our journey tonight, let's return to where we began and reflect on the strange, beautiful purpose of our own dreams, the ones that need no technology to touch our hearts, no decoding to carry meaning. What do our dreams, these gifts that arrive unbidden each night, tell us about the marvel of being human? What wisdom do they carry in their strange, ephemeral beauty? Come, let's drift toward our closing reflections and discover what our dreams have been trying to tell us all along. The mystery deepens as we near the end. As our journey comes to a close, let's take a moment to rest here, like travelers pausing by a quiet river before continuing home. We've wandered through the landscapes of dreams together, from the electrical storms of REM sleep to the ancient wisdom of cultures who saw dreams as sacred messages. We've walked through laboratories where scientists trace the first shadows of sleeping thoughts, and drifted through monasteries where dreams become doorways to understanding. And now, as the night deepens around us, it's time to gather these threads together and discover what they weave. We began with a simple question: why do our dreams feel so strange? And we found that strangeness is not a flaw, but a feature, a gift from a brain that never truly sleeps, but instead becomes a quiet artist, painting with fragments of memory and pools of emotion. Science showed us the theater of the sleeping mind, where the amygdala lights up like a campfire, casting dramatic shadows, while the hippocampus weaves yesterday's conversations into tomorrow's impossible stories, where the prefrontal cortex, that careful editor of waking life, steps back and lets imagination run free through rooms that shift like water and time that bends like light. Psychology whispered to us of dreams as more than random noise, but as the mind's way of sorting, healing, creating. Freud saw them as hidden wishes, Jung as maps to the soul, modern science as rehearsals for life's challenges, emotional laboratories where feelings are processed and memories are woven into the fabric of who we are. And then we traveled the world, discovering that from the Ojibwe forests to the Tibetan peaks, from African villages to Maori meeting houses, dreams have always been seen as bridges, connections to ancestors, to spirits, to truths that daylight cannot reveal. A shared river flowing through every culture, carrying the same whispered hope that we are not alone, that there is guidance, that there is meaning. We glimpsed a future where the secret cinema of dreams might one day be visible, shareable, even healable, where technology and wonder dance together, asking questions that challenge what we think we know about privacy, consciousness, and the beautiful mystery of the dreaming mind. Strange, isn't it? And yet comforting too, to know that every bizarre dream, every impossible scene, every moment when you've flown over cities or spoken with those long gone, all of it is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Your dreams are like whispers of your mind, painting with a brush dipped in memory and starlight. They are not mistakes or glitches, but glimpses of the boundless creativity that lives within you. The same creativity that inspired Dalí's melting clocks and Shelley's reborn monster. The same mystery that ancient dreamers saw as messages from the divine. Each strange twist in your dreams, each impossible leap from one scene to another, every moment of flying or falling or finding yourself in places that exist nowhere but in sleep, these are not chaos, but poetry. The poetry of a mind that never stops creating, never stops connecting, never stops reaching toward meaning. Your dreams matter. Not because some external authority says so, not because science can decode them or culture can interpret them, but because they are yours. Born from your unique constellation of memories, emotions, hopes, and fears. They are letters you write to yourself in a language only your heart can fully understand. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, may you listen to the strange, beautiful language of your own dreams. May you welcome whatever stories your sleeping mind chooses to tell, whether they carry you to childhood homes with doors that open to oceans, or to conversations with faces you recognize but cannot name. Don't worry if they seem odd or confusing or impossible. That's exactly what they're supposed to be. Let them unfold like flowers blooming in moonlight, each one unique, each one perfect in its own mysterious way. What stories might your own mind weave tonight? What colors will it choose? What music will play in the background of your sleeping adventures? You don't need to understand them, control them, or remember them come morning. You need only to trust that somewhere in the depths of sleep, your brain is doing its gentle work, sorting and storing, healing and creating, preparing you for the day to come while gifting you with visions that belong to no world but your own. Rest now. Let the day slip away like sand through open fingers. Let your breathing slow, your muscles soften, your thoughts become as light as clouds drifting across an evening sky. The mystery of dreams continues in you, in the quiet theater of your sleeping mind, where tonight's story is about to begin. Sleep well, and let your dreams carry you gently through the night. Whatever strange and wonderful places they take you, you'll find your way home by morning.